Hi, I'm Rebecca Keppel with Scrapbook.com. We're here in the Scrapbook.com studio, and we have the Umbrella Crafts nested dies. And these nested dies are great. They come in a variety of shapes, everything from hearts to circles, rectangles, squares. And when I say nested shapes, I mean lots of different sizes of one shape, each smaller than the last. They're perfect for cutting out paper, cardstock, and other thin materials. And of course they can be used to cut out one shape and use them on your cards, use them on your layouts, use them on your paper crafts and other DIY projects. But in this video, we're going to show you 5 different techniques to use these dies together and get the most bang from your buck out of Umbrella Crafts nested dies. So let's get started. So in this first technique, we're going to create a shaped card using the largest of one nested die set. Here I used the flower set, and I took the largest nested die and I partially die cut a folded in half piece of paper to create this fun shaped card base. I also used the circle dies to create the background, used the flowers again to create the C, and used partial die cutting on the craft cardstock to create this little hill. I'm going to show you how to do all of these things right now, so let's get started. Okay, we're going to grab a piece of white cardstock folded in half. Doesn't really matter what size it is as long as it fits in your die cut machine. And we're going to grab the largest flower die here. Bring in my manual die cut machine. I'm using the magnetic platform here, but you don't have to. You can use any basic platform for thin metal dies. So for the Sizzix machine, that's the one that cuts thinlits, triplets, framelits, things like that. So I'm going to lay my folded cardstock on my platform. And first I'm going to grab my cutting plates. So let's see. I'm going to lay it on my cutting plate on my platform. And then I'm going to take my die and place it just so that the very top is off the fold. So the fold is not going to cut because you're just laying the die off the fold there. By doing that, you're going to get both pieces of cardstock cut in this shape, but they're going to have the fold still intact at the top. So then when we run it through, and if you want to run it back just because you're a little worried that 2 layers isn't going to cut, you can do that as well. And when we take our card off, we have this great shaped base. So that's the start of our card. Now, this isn't that much fun, it's just a white card. So what I did here was cut some pattern paper in the large shape again, this time not folded. So we're going to do that next. I've got my pattern paper, and this time I'm going to cut the entire flower. Okay, and when we remove that, we have this pretty patterned flower that fits perfectly on top of our card base. So next, we need a little hill for these little flamingos to stand on. So we're going to cut a circle using the Umbrella Crafts nested wafer thin circle dies. And I'm going to cut out a craft circle. So now we just have this plain craft circle, but obviously I didn't use the entire circle here, I just used part of it. So that's where the partial die cutting comes in. We're going to run it back through, use the same size die, and just cut part of the circle. So I have the nice cutting edge face down, and then I just pick how big of a hill I want. So all that's going to cut on this circle is this part right here that's layered the die over the paper. So then I'm going to push that through, and there we go. We have our nice little hill. So then we have that, and I already have a circle cut out and inked so we can see how we're going to layer these things together. So then what I'm looking for is this little ocean background here. Now, Umbrella Crafts doesn't right now have border dies, so you have to get creative, and that's super fun because it means that you're getting more out of your dies. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a same-sized circle, and we're gonna cut it with the flower die, but let's grab a smaller one, I think. Let's take this guy. And if we lay it like that, it looks like ocean waves instead of a flower. So I'll show you, again, we're using partial die cutting to create a brand new shape with the dies that you already have. Okay, so we have our platform all set. We're gonna lay the same size circle down. This is in blue. And we're gonna lay this flower die down right on top, and we're going to cut wherever the die is touching the paper. So we'll run that through. And now you see you get two different shapes. Here's our ocean that we can put right in the background there. Then we can layer our little hill on top. And you get this other piece that I was thinking about it and I thought, you know what, this looks like icing on a cupcake or a scoop of ice cream or something like that. So just start thinking about your dies in different ways, play with some partial die cutting, and you get so many more looks than just a flower or a circle. In this technique, we're going to use two sizes of one shape of nested dies to create three-dimensional embellishments. This is super easy, fun. You can use them on cards, you can use them on layouts, other projects. It's incredibly simple and fun. So we're going to take two different types of cardstock. I have glitter cardstock here and foiled cardstock, and these dies are great. They cut through both really easily, even though the glitter is super thick. So I'm going to grab a piece of glitter cardstock, and I'm going to grab the second smallest heart die here. So I'm going to put that on my cutting plate, cut through that, and you can see that it really, even one pass, it cuts beautifully. I love these little glittered hearts, so much fun. So then I'm going to take a slightly larger, the next size up, foiled heart. We're going to use our foiled cardstock and the next size heart die, and I'm going to cut that out. And the great thing about these nested dies is that the shapes are all perfectly aligned. So you can easily layer them and create these fun little dimensional embellishments. So then all you have to do to create this fun little pop of glitter and foil is use some foam tape, and we can even pop up the foil one too this time. I didn't on this card, but I think it would be fun. So we'll apply some foam tape. I cut it a little too large, that's okay. And then we'll lay that on our cardstock. And then we're going to grab a little bit more foam tape to pop up our glittered heart. And we're going to just lay it right in the middle of the shape. And what I said that they were aligned perfectly, you can see that the point of the heart lines up perfectly with the point of the larger heart, and same thing up here. So it's easy to line them up and create this fun dimensional element. In this next technique, we're going to use the Umbrella Crafts nested dies to crop photos and to create photo mats. And that is so much fun on a layout if you have a shaped photo like an oval, but you could also do squares or rectangles, but then you have the perfectly sized photo mat behind it if you use nested dies. So let's get started on that one. I have a 4x6 photo here, and I have some pattern paper, and then I have my Umbrella Crafts wafer thin nested ovals. So I'm going to take the largest oval die, and I'm going to use that for my photo mat, and then I'm going to take the next largest oval, and I'm going to use that to crop my photo. The great thing about nested dies is that they're open in the middle here, which makes it really easy to determine what you're cutting on your photo and your pattern paper. If you have lined paper, you could cut journaling cards like this. Just makes it really easy to see what you're doing on the inside there. So the cutting is this raised edge here. So if you line up your die on your photo, you can kind of determine exactly what's going to be cut inside. So let's put our photo down, our die on top, figure out exactly what we want cut, and then put our cutting plate on top of that. Send it through our manual die cut machine. And you can see I have a perfectly cut oval photo. And this is great because when you're trying to cut shapes and sizes out of your photo, it can be really hard, especially if you're using a trimmer and you're trying to cut a rectangle or a square. It's hard to determine exactly where you should be cutting. So these dies are great for this. So then we're going to cut our photo mat. We're going to take our pattern paper and our large, let's see, we're going to have to cut this down just a little bit. It's just a little too large for my platform there. Okay. So then, again, I can determine exactly what words I want cut out. So if I like summer, if I want the little ice cream cone, I just move it around and determine exactly what kind of photo mat I want. And once I'm happy with the placement, send that through my die cut machine. And then the shapes are all exactly the same, just in different increments and sizes. So you can see they layer on top of each other perfectly well. And then here's the layout that I created using this technique. It's super easy, fun, and you get some great photo mats. Another quick and easy technique for using nested dies is to use two dies together to create a frame, like I did on this card. I used two rectangular dies to create this fun graphic looking frame. It's very simple, it's quick and easy. You could use them on cards or layouts. So I grabbed the largest rectangle die and then the second largest rectangular die. And I'm using a magnetic platform, so they're staying exactly where I want them when I line them up. If you don't have a magnetic platform, just use some washi tape. Lay them down on your paper and line them up and put a little washi tape on them, and that will work just as well. So I have everything lined up on my platform here, and I'm going to send it through. And when I take them out, I have a couple of pieces. I have the large piece that's got a window on it. I have my frame here, and then I have a nice rectangle here. So I can use these two on another project, and I can layer my frame on a 4x6 card. So then what is really fun is to take an even smaller die and pull it off and cut another color, or like on this card I cut the same color, but I think it would be fun to see what another color looks like. So then when we pull that rectangle off, we have our frame, our card base, and then a fun center panel as well. And so you can decorate that center panel, and it just gives a really fun graphic look to your cards with these great frames. For this last technique, we're going to use two different shapes to create a third shape. So on this card, I used the scallop heart and then the regular heart inside to create a new shape. You could do this with lots of different things. You could take a rectangle and put a circle inside. You could take a flower and put a heart inside. There's so many different options. The other fun thing about this card is I used a bunch of different dies together. So Umbrella Crafts does have a bundle where they have all of their nested dies in one pack, which is super fun because you can use the rectangle for a card panel, the heart shape and the scallop shape to create this piece, and then a circle on the inside. And we have this window here that you get to see inside. So we're going to create all of these pieces and just see how easy it is to combine the dies together. Okay, so first thing we're going to cut, we have a card base here, which is a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 white piece of cardstock. And then I have some craft cardstock here. I'm going to cut out my card panel with the craft cardstock. So this is just a basic rectangular shape, and I'm going to use my magnetic platform so I can line up my die on my paper. Again, if you don't have a magnetic platform, just grab some washi tape and run that through. And that's one piece that is done and one die that you can use for that. So now we have our panel that fits perfectly on top of our card here. So what we're going to do next is we're going to cut the window. So we're going to cut two pieces at the same time. We're going to cut the craft and the white with a heart die to create a nice little window. So we're going to open up the card so that we're not cutting through both pieces, the front and the back. And we're going to lay our craft right on top. This way we get a perfect alignment with those two pieces of paper. We're going to grab our heart die and place it right in the middle there. I'm just going to see how this looks on our card. I think that's great. So now we're going to send this through. Careful not to move it around too much, otherwise you're not going to get that perfect placement that you wanted. Okay, so now we have card base, card panel, our window, and I've already cut with the large circle die a pretty circle for the inside. So that's another shape that we're using together. And you can see once we adhere everything together that we're going to get this great effect of looking in on the circle there. So next we're going to combine our large scalloped heart with the slightly smaller regular heart to create this shape here, which is super fun and will sit as a nice frame outside there. So I'm going to place my cardstock down on my platform here. I'm going to leave my scalloped heart on the outside, my smaller plain heart on the inside, and again they're pretty easy to line up to create a nice even shape. And send those through. And when we take those off, we have a bunch of different shapes again. So I have my large piece of cardstock with a pretty scalloped heart on it. I have a small purple heart that I can save for another project. And I have this shape here that's perfect for sitting outside my window. So I think I'm going to use the orange one that I already had, and we're just going to take a little bit of adhesive and glue everything down. So first I'm going to glue down the inside, and I just want to make sure that when I'm doing that, that my window doesn't show any white. So I'm going to place it right there. And just double check. There we go. So now I have the inside, I have my window, then I'm going to put my card panel on top. Let's see which side I want here. So this side has got the cute little embossed heart as well, because these dies can do both. They can cut and emboss at the same time. So I'm going to use that as my front. Even though we're probably going to cover it up with the scalloped heart anyway, that's okay. If you weren't using this other piece, that would be a fun little element to have. And then I'm just going to line this up right on top, and then I'm going to put some glue on the outside of this scalloped heart. And because we used the same heart die in the middle there, again, this should line up perfectly as well. And you can see on the finished card, you just add a couple of other stamped elements and some other fun things, and you've created this really fun window card using a bunch of different die shapes, and you've combined two dies to create a fun new shape. So those were 5 techniques using Umbrella Crafts nested dies, and you can see how you can use them together, use the different sizes to layer, cut out different shapes, partial die cut. There's so many fun ways to use these dies, and you can really get a lot of bang for your buck.